Recent studies show that what you've been told about salmon and heart health might be completely wrong. Some seniors eating salmon twice a week are actually increasing their risk of stroke and heart rhythm problems. But here's the twist. Other research shows salmon eaters live longer and have fewer heart attacks.
If you're feeling overwhelmed by all the conflicting health advice about fish, you're not alone. One day, the news says, eat more salmon for your heart. The next day, a study warns about mercury poisoning and contaminated farm-raised fish. Meanwhile, your doctor might be recommending fish oil pills, but recent research suggests they could increase your stroke risk if you're healthy. No wonder so many of us don't know what to believe anymore.
If this is the kind of conversation you've been looking for, please take a moment to hit the like button and subscribe. Your support is what makes these in-depth discussions possible. And don't forget to hit the bell icon so you never miss our next debate. Now, let's get into our first big topic. For over 20 years, major medical organizations have recommended salmon and other fatty fish for heart health. The American Heart Association says eating fish twice a week can reduce your risk of heart disease and stroke. The science behind this seems solid. Salmon contains EPA and DHA, two omega-3 fatty acids that many studies show can lower triglycerides, reduce inflammation, and stabilize dangerous heart rhythms. Some research even suggests that people who eat fish regularly have up to 20% lower risk of dying from heart disease. But here's where it gets complicated. Many people started taking fish oil supplements thinking they'd get the same benefits as eating actual fish. Recent large-scale studies involving over 400,000 people found something surprising. Healthy seniors taking fish oil supplements regularly were 13% more likely to develop atrial fibrillation, an irregular heartbeat that can lead to stroke. Even more confusing, a major study that followed 26,000 adults for 5 years found that omega-3 supplements didn't significantly reduce overall heart attacks, strokes, or cardiovascular deaths. However, when researchers looked specifically at people who didn't eat much fish to begin with, those taking supplements did see some benefits. Some doctors now say the difference between eating fish and taking supplements might be crucial. When you eat salmon, you're getting protein, vitamin D, selenium, B vitamins, and other nutrients that work together. With supplements, you're getting isolated omega-3s, often at much higher doses than you'd get from food. One cardiologist recently told his patients that the days of buying buckets of fish oil pills at the store should be over. But here's what's really interesting for seniors. The research suggests that if you already have cardiovascular disease, fish oil supplements might actually help slow the progression of your condition. It's the healthy people taking supplements for prevention who seem to face increased stroke risk. This creates a real dilemma for many seniors who are trying to stay ahead of heart problems.
Now, let's talk about the elephant in the room. Not all salmon is created equal, and this is where the real controversy begins. Many nutrition experts strongly recommend wild-caught salmon, especially from Alaska, claiming it has lower contaminant levels and higher omega-3 content. They point to studies showing wild salmon contains less mercury than most other fish and significantly fewer PCBs and dioxins than farm-raised varieties. But here's what might surprise you. Some recent analyses suggest that both wild and farm-raised salmon are actually quite safe when it comes to mercury levels. Salmon, whether wild or farmed, typically contains only about 0.022 parts per million of mercury, which is well below FDA safety limits. Compare this to swordfish at nearly 1 part per million, and salmon looks pretty good.
The farmed salmon debate gets more complex when you look at the actual numbers. Yes, farm-raised salmon can contain higher levels of certain contaminants, like PCBs.
However, these levels are still considered safe by FDA standards, though they exceed EPA recommendations for frequent consumption. Some studies suggest removing the skin before eating can reduce exposure to these contaminants significantly. Here's an interesting twist that many people don't know about. Farm-raised salmon often contains more omega-3s per serving than wild salmon because they're fed fish oil supplements. But there's a catch. As demand for fish oil has increased, some fish farms have started using more vegetable oils in their feed, which means the omega-3 content in farm-raised salmon has been declining. The safety question becomes even more nuanced when you consider antibiotics. Farm-raised salmon are often given antibiotics to prevent disease in crowded conditions. While the levels in the final product are regulated, some experts worry about antibiotic resistance. On the other hand, wild salmon can be exposed to environmental pollutants and plastic debris in the ocean. One respected neurologist who specializes in brain health recently said he recommends wild-caught salmon and sardines as the best sources because they're high in omega-3s and lower in mercury. But he also noted that if you can't afford wild salmon or it's not available, farm-raised salmon is still better than no salmon at all. What many seniors don't realize is that most canned salmon is actually wild-caught, not farmed. This makes canned salmon an affordable way to get wild salmon benefits. However, canned salmon typically has much higher sodium content, which can be concerning for seniors managing blood pressure.
Here's something that might shock you. Most seniors are either eating too little salmon to get benefits or too much and potentially increasing their exposure to contaminants. The American Heart Association recommends 2 servings of fish per week, with each serving being 3.5 ounces. That's about the size of a deck of cards, or roughly 100 grams. But here's where it gets tricky for seniors. Many restaurants serve portions that are 5 to 7 ounces, which is nearly double the recommended serving size. If you're eating salmon twice a week at those portions, you might be getting more mercury and other contaminants than advisable. On the flip side, many seniors are barely getting 1 small serving per week, which might not be enough to see cardiovascular benefits. Recent research suggests that consuming at least 2 servings of fatty fish weekly can increase omega-3 blood levels by 8 to 9% and decrease omega-6 levels within just 4 weeks. This ratio change is what many researchers believe drives the heart health benefits.
For seniors who already have diabetes, the equation changes slightly. Both the American Heart Association and the American Diabetes Association recommend that people with diabetes can safely eat 2 servings of salmon per week, totaling about 7 ounces. This is because people with type 2 diabetes are more than twice as likely to have heart disease or stroke. But what about seniors taking blood-thinning medications? This is where serving size becomes critical. Some doctors recommend that patients on warfarin or other anticoagulants limit their salmon intake to 1 serving per week, not because of the fish itself, but because of potential medication interactions we'll discuss shortly. The preparation method also affects how much nutrition you actually get. Grilling or baking salmon at 325 degrees for about 12 to 15 minutes per inch of thickness preserves the most omega-3s. Frying, especially at high temperatures, can destroy up to 30% of the beneficial fatty acids. Here's something most people don't know. Letting salmon rest for 3 to 5 minutes after cooking actually helps redistribute the natural oils, making the omega-3s more bioavailable. This simple step can increase the nutritional benefit you get from each serving.
This is the part of the salmon conversation that many doctors don't discuss thoroughly enough with their senior patients. Salmon and fish oil supplements can interact with several common medications that seniors take, potentially causing serious health problems. The biggest concern is with blood-thinning medications like warfarin, also known as Coumadin. Both salmon and fish oil supplements contain omega-3 fatty acids that can affect how your blood clots. While this might sound beneficial for heart health, it can be dangerous if you're already taking anticoagulant medications. Several documented cases show seniors whose blood became too thin when they increased their salmon intake or fish oil supplements while taking warfarin. In one case, a 67-year-old woman's blood clotting time became dangerously prolonged after she doubled her fish oil dose from 1,000 to 2,000 milligrams daily. Her doctor had to reduce her warfarin dose to compensate. But here's what's really concerning. Many seniors don't tell their doctors about increasing their fish intake or starting fish oil supplements. They think it's just food, so it can't be dangerous. But research shows that high doses of omega-3s can increase bleeding risk, especially when combined with medications like aspirin, clopidogrel, or warfarin.
The good news is that moderate fish consumption appears to be safe for most seniors taking these medications. Studies suggest that eating up to 2 servings of salmon per week, totaling about 7 ounces, doesn't significantly affect blood clotting in most people. However, if you're taking blood thinners and want to increase your salmon intake, you absolutely need to discuss this with your doctor first. What many seniors don't realize is that omega-3s can also interact with certain antidepressants, particularly trazodone. There have been reports of seniors experiencing dangerous bleeding episodes when combining high-dose fish oil supplements with these medications. The key is communication with your healthcare team. If you're taking any medications and want to add salmon to your diet or start fish oil supplements, bring a list of everything you're taking to your doctor. This includes over-the-counter medications, vitamins, and herbal supplements. Some doctors now recommend that seniors on multiple medications start with just 1 serving of salmon per week and monitor how they feel. If there are no issues after a month, they might approve increasing to the standard 2 servings weekly.
Let's address the financial reality that many seniors face. Fresh salmon can cost anywhere from $12 to $25 per pound, making it unaffordable for many people on fixed incomes. Canned salmon typically costs $2 to $4 per can, with each can providing about 2 servings. So is canned salmon a good substitute? The surprising answer is that canned salmon is nutritionally comparable to fresh, and in some ways, it's actually better. Most canned salmon is wild-caught rather than farmed, which means lower contaminant levels. The canning process also softens the bones, making them completely edible and dramatically increasing the calcium content. A 3.5-ounce serving of canned salmon with bones provides about 15% of the daily calcium needs for seniors. However, there are trade-offs. Canned salmon typically contains 6 times more sodium than fresh salmon, with some varieties containing up to 400 milligrams per serving. For seniors managing high blood pressure, this can be concerning. Look for low-sodium or no-salt added varieties when possible. The omega-3 content in canned salmon is slightly lower than fresh, but still substantial. Canned salmon provides about half the omega-3s of fresh salmon, but that's still enough to meet the recommended daily intake if you're eating 2 servings per week.
One advantage of canned salmon is consistency. Fresh salmon quality can vary dramatically depending on how long it's been stored, how it was transported, and how it's handled at the store. Canned salmon offers consistent quality and safety. For seniors who want to save money while still getting good nutrition, consider mixing both options. Use canned salmon for quick meals like salmon patties, salads, or pasta dishes. Save fresh salmon for special occasions when you want the superior taste and texture. Frozen salmon fillets can also be a good middle ground option. They're typically much less expensive than fresh, and if they're properly frozen and stored, they retain most of their nutritional value. Look for individually wrapped fillets that you can thaw as needed. Here's a budget tip many seniors don't know. Buying whole salmon and having it filleted at the store often costs less per pound than buying pre-cut fillets. You can also ask for the bones and head to make salmon stock, maximizing your nutritional and financial investment.
The way you prepare salmon can dramatically affect both its safety and nutritional value, but most seniors aren't getting accurate information about proper cooking methods. The USDA recommends cooking salmon to an internal temperature of 145 degrees Fahrenheit, but many chefs and nutrition experts argue this overcooks the fish and destroys beneficial nutrients. For seniors, especially those with compromised immune systems, food safety is crucial. However, salmon cooked to 145 degrees often becomes dry, rubbery, and loses much of its omega-3 content. Many experts now recommend cooking salmon to 125 to 130 degrees for optimal nutrition and texture, provided you're using high-quality, fresh fish. The cooking method also matters significantly. Grilling, baking, or poaching salmon preserves more omega-3s than frying. High-temperature frying can destroy up to 30% of the beneficial fatty acids and may create harmful compounds. For seniors concerned about contaminants, cooking methods that allow fat to drain away, like grilling or broiling, can reduce PCB exposure. Here's something important for seniors to know. If you're buying farm-raised salmon, removing the skin before cooking can reduce contaminant exposure by up to 20%. However, this also removes some omega-3s. With wild salmon, the skin is generally safe to eat and contains beneficial nutrients. Proper storage is equally important. Fresh salmon should be cooked within 1 to 2 days of purchase and stored in the coldest part of your refrigerator. If it smells fishy, don't eat it. Fresh salmon should smell like the ocean, not like fish. For seniors who have difficulty cooking, there are safer preparation methods. Baking salmon at 325 degrees in foil packets with vegetables is virtually foolproof and preserves nutrients. The foil creates a steam environment that cooks the fish gently and keeps it moist. Smoked salmon, while convenient, presents some concerns for seniors. It's extremely high in sodium and may carry a higher risk of listeria, particularly cold-smoked varieties. Seniors with weakened immune systems should be especially cautious with smoked fish products.
After examining all this evidence, here's what we know for certain. There is no simple answer to the salmon question. The research shows benefits and risks that vary depending on your current health status, the medications you're taking, the type of salmon you choose, how you prepare it, and even your budget. What's clear is that eating salmon as part of a balanced diet appears to offer more cardiovascular benefits than risks for most seniors. The key is making informed choices. If you're healthy and have no history of heart disease, eating wild-caught salmon once or twice a week while avoiding unnecessary fish oil supplements seems to be the safest approach based on current evidence. If you already have cardiovascular disease, the equation changes. Some research suggests both salmon consumption and prescription omega-3 medications might provide benefits, but this should absolutely be discussed with your cardiologist. If you're taking blood-thinning medications, start slowly and communicate with your healthcare provider. Many seniors can safely enjoy salmon while on these medications, but monitoring is important. For those on tight budgets, canned salmon offers many of the same benefits as fresh. Just watch the sodium content. If you can afford fresh salmon occasionally, the superior taste and texture make it worth the investment.
Our goal on this channel isn't to give you medical advice, but to help you ask better questions when you talk to your healthcare provider. Questions like, based on my heart health history and current medications, should I be eating salmon regularly? Should I choose wild or farm-raised? Are fish oil supplements appropriate for my situation? What about interactions with my current medications? How should I prepare it for maximum safety and nutrition? The salmon debate perfectly illustrates why one-size-fits-all nutrition advice often falls short, especially for seniors with complex health histories. Your individual risk factors, current medications, other health conditions, and even your budget all play roles in determining what's right for you. What's your experience with salmon and heart health? Have you noticed any changes when you've added or removed fish from your diet? Have you discussed fish consumption with your doctor? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more evidence-based health discussions that cut through the confusion.